Hi, everybody. We're live. I'm here with Terri Lasater. Welcome to my Thursday broadcast at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We're posting on my business page, on my Wealth Warrior Accountability Tribe, and we're also here in the Austin Ren group. And so most of the women that I'll be interviewing at this time are women in Austin. And the reason why I really love this is because Austin is a fantastic market. As we all know, it's extremely competitive and it's very interesting. It's the kind of thing where if you can make it in Austin, you can make it anywhere. So really, wherever you're at, if you're listening, it's a really exciting opportunity to hear how these ladies are leveling up and taking on big projects. And I'm super excited that my friend Terri Lasater has joined me. She's a member of Ren in Austin, and she has many, many, many accolades, and her resume is huge. But one of the most interesting things about Terri is that she is a general contractor, and we don't see a lot of general contractors in our business. We don't see a lot of women investors. We don't see enough leaders in this space. And so it's really exciting to have an opportunity to talk to her about how she's doing this, what she does, tips for you guys about how she thinks you can achieve your financial goals through real estate. And also, she's also a business owner, which is also interesting. She got so good at marketing her own business that she learned how to market other people's and then started creating partnerships with them, which is really also phenomenal because these multiple streams of income are becoming more and more popular for many people these days. And it really helps to level up and to be able to meet our financial goals. So without further ado, welcome, Terri.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is fun. I'm really enjoying this. Like I said, I love talking to women that are leveling up and that are doing great things so that we can learn from one another. Now, tell me, how did you become a general contractor? And how did this come about?
Sure. So about 15 years ago, I really became a general contractor by accident. I didn't grow up in construction. I had no construction background, but I had business background. I'm a serial entrepreneur, and so my ex-husband was moonlighting for a custom home builder doing spray foam insulation. And at that time, that was, it's a green building product. At that time, it was fairly new in this area. And this is a town and a state of good old boys. So all those good old builders didn't know if they really wanted to try new things. So this custom home builder that had a rig, I started to network and go to the Green Building Council meetings, got fascinated by green building products, all that, and started a network at the Home Builders Association, became a member. And all of a sudden, builders were asking for bids, and then husband left. I had built this business around him. I learned how to do takeoffs. I had builders calling me all the time and asking me to do more things. And I didn't say no. I said yes. Started subcontracting everything out. And I've learned a master's program in all of my failures.
Well, I love that story. And I also love bringing in the fact that you're bringing this green element into the space, which is so important when we're building right now, to be thinking about the way the world's going and our resources. And so what is it when you build houses now? Because you've actually built from the ground up. You're very ambitious. I love the way you're set. I love there's a couple of jewels in there that I just want to reflect on for anyone that is listening to this. One is that one is the idea that that Terri said she said yes. Two, that she went to networking meetings. Three, that she just kept going through the process of something that she was passionate about, and then also was able to connect the dots into a prosperous business. So I love that. Now, so tell me about the green work, because that is really interesting to me.
Sure. So the green building, so Austin is the mecca for green building in all of Central Texas. And so other towns look for us for building. And quite frankly, most of the building products have now it's a requirement. An example is windows have to be energy efficient. They have to pass that green building standard. There are green building panels that you can buy for insulation for walls, that kind of thing. There's spray foam insulation, sealing the envelope. There is a, even in landscaping and the drainage plans and things like that are designed, and the tree ordinances here are designed as an overall footprint effect in a positive way. So there's also a ton of other green products per se, but not necessarily anything better or more than. Now, there are some other builders that will build, the blocks of green products, or they're blocks that actually go together for walls. And we certainly can do that. It's also the position of the house on the lot.
Right.
So many things to consider.
Yeah.
And thank God the experts.
What I'm wondering is that, do you need to do this from the ground up, or is it the kind of thing where if I have a house and I want to make it more green, can I just implement some of these features like in the landscape, or maybe in, add some insulation?
Yeah, that's a great question. Absolutely. Any spray foam insulation can go spray in an attic. They're spraying against your deck. There's a way to do it in existing walls and with an expert where they punch holes in the top and they spray from the bottom up. So absolutely, windows, replacement windows, those things are part of that option too. Lots of ways to upgrade.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, that's great to learn about. So, as a general contractor, do you find that you're able, you stay busy all the time? Do you find that men men want to work with you, or do you find that it's more women?
So that's a great question too. This is a male-dominated field, and I am not a man-hater at any level, but I certainly will love to bounce that off. There has been a lot of struggle, I say, to get to a place where I have leads that work for me for the last 9 years, 8 or 9 years, and so I've built a team where we have some loyalty and some respect. And, I call them the experts on the job, and I'm the expert behind the scenes. And so I never take them for granted, and they always get taken care of. So taking care of your guys is that. The other aspect of that is sometimes, there are a lot of trades here, a lot of contractors, a lot of subs. And so it's vetting those subs are so important, especially as investors and hiring people to do the job. Vetting those, it's such an important, I've lost a lot of money that way.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a big responsibility because it is on you, because the client hires you and then you're the one who's really overseeing the job. I mean, for those who don't even know, when you're doing a project, you could certainly buy a house and you can do all the stuff yourself. And what Terri does is basically come in and I hire Terri, then Terri comes in and Terri hires everybody. Terri oversees those people. So when she says she loses money, it's because when you hire a GC, you do want someone that has integrity, where she's like, hey, the plumber didn't do exactly what I thought he was going to do, and it doesn't look right. So I'm going to take it out of my pocket to fix it, since I'm the one that hired him.
That's right.
Or her. So, I mean, this is something that, you think about a lot of times. It makes, if you definitely have, there's this whole thing about like time and money. So if you have the time, then, and you don't have the money, then you put in the time, then you manage it yourself. But if you have the money and you don't have the time, then you hire someone like Terri to kind of manage everything, as long as it fits into your bottom line. So it's just, this is really interesting. Where do you find, are you doing projects all over Austin? I know you're talking about San Antonio too right now. So how is it working for you?
Yeah. So I'm blessed to have a referral business. I don't have to market as much anymore, and I'm real busy. And so I focus on Austin and all the 5 contiguous counties. And so I've done projects in Elgin. I have a new build in Jonestown, which is towards Lago Vista, Cedar Park area. I've had things in Manor. I've just all over in Round Rock, Cedar Park, even San Marcos, Kyle, Buda, those areas. So yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, no, that's great. It's like you're really you're focused on not one actual area, but where the projects are, where you can do the best work and where people are contacting you. Now, let's say someone is like, what advice would you have for someone that's looking for their, like, maybe they don't have the money or they want to just know more about the process so that they can kind of oversee it? What recommendations would you give as far as vetting workers?
Sure. I would ask for references, and I would ask for, so normally my guys, so I ask in my contracts 50% deposit. That helps me get past, buying all the materials up front where and that helps with the process and the time, right?
So
Time.
you'll basically, so you're saying, like, if I hire you right now, you're going to ask me for 50% up front so that you can hire your people,
That's right. And so
right?
here's the answer to your question is my guys have been with me for a while. So I give them, it's money to money, hand to hand. I have no credit. I do hand to hand, I cash business. And so I do 50% to him at the beginning as well. Now, if it's someone I'm using for the first time and I'm trying to vet and we're trying to see if we can build a relationship, because I like that. Building relationships is really important in this deal,
Yeah, it is.
is that I'm not giving you 50% up front. So, I've had too many experiences of them walking off with that. So the vetting looks like this is what I'm willing to do, right? It's always a negotiation. I need your references and I need to come see your work. Anybody can send you pictures. And I mean,
Good point.
right, from another contractor, or you just can't see the details, and the details are what's important. So,
Yeah. It's very interesting that you're saying that. I have a friend right now and they're looking for a modern home that's already turnkey. And
mhm,
everything that they're going to see, they're saying is shoddy work. And I mean, you're going to get, when you have an influx of people that are rehabbing, there's going to be some people that are going to really want to, like, get those details just right and willing to spend a little more to ideally make a little more. And there's going to be people that are going to try to cut corners and make it look like it is that kind of a job and get the dollars for that, but not really do the work. And some people that know a little bit more about craftsmanship
mhm.
can see through that. And so it's interesting. So that's another thing you really want to look for when you're buying, or when you're, figuring out your flips, like where to spend the money. Like, where do you think is the most valuable place to spend the money on a deal?
Sure. It's going to be the kitchen, the master bath, and the curb appeal.
Right. Those
Mhm.
are the three things. So, like, everything else is important, but not as, like, if
Right.
I had a bathroom, I may not want to spend 30,000 on a very high end unless it was the master bath, because
That's
you said the
correct.
master bath people like.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. That's great to know for anyone that doesn't know that. Now, you're a marketer and you've built not only your business here, but also you've helped other people build their businesses. And so I'd love for you to share, like, what marketing tips do you have? Because obviously everything's relationship, everything's business. So what marketing tools do you recommend to people, like if they want to meet other people or if they want to find deals right now?
Mhm.
What would you recommend?
So REN is a great space. I love it. It is so networking. That's your first deal. Meet with people in Austin. Get to know some of the people that are in the game. Get to know the real estate agents that are in the top 20 and the ones that are not. Because you never know what they may teach you. Help. I love network. Go to the Home Builders Association meetings. Go to the networking groups with REN and other real estate investment groups here. There's Investor Underground. Always be careful with that kind of stuff and vetting. And then the other marketing tool is social media. Social media is your best friend. And I'm terrible at it, to be honest, but I hire people that are better than me at a lot of
Well,
things.
that's a good, that's great. So you feel like what you do is you hire people to keep the marketing going, and
Mhm.
that's what I did. All honestly, it was a game changer for me. But I would say, don't put the cart before the horse. Like, make sure that you have your ducks in a row before you start spending money on that.
Right.
So because otherwise you can just be spending and not really getting the results. So I love that you have social media manager, as I do. And what do they do for you?
So I'm actually in the process of rebuilding my website and logo, that kind of thing. It's been a long time, and we're looking to refresh it and put some updated pictures and things like that. So, so I'm in the middle of that, but in general, I have someone that's going to be doing the Instagram. I have another a gal that's working on my Facebook page. It's going to be updating that. We're going to start doing videos, live videos on site.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
no, that's great. And people love that. For
Mhm.
sure. It definitely is good to be on social these days.
Yeah.
And just to be out there. It's kind of, we're living in an age where people really need to see you and know who you are. But you know, it's not always necessary either, because I actually have this battle with myself in terms of, you know, where my time and resources go. And I think that it depends. If you're working on a project and you don't really feel like you necessarily want to, you know, market yourself because you're just doing your thing, that's
Mhm.
okay too, because you know, it is a time suck. And you know, unfortunately, half the time you spend on Instagram could be productive time of you posting and sharing something that you're doing, and the other half could be like, oh, I just surfed for an hour. You just get kind of lost in that abyss. So
Right.
definitely, I like what you're saying, but I like what do you think is the most effective marketing tool you've done? Because you talk about like taking these companies on, like, why do you think you've made these other companies successful too?
Well, it starts with, so I am a business consultant also, and so I have a partnership with a barbershop out of California, of
Right.
all places, and we're expanding into Austin and then across the entire country. But in that, the startup is so my goal is to see where you're at and look at your financials, which is a scary thing sometimes. You got to know your financials. You got to be on top of that. You got to know where your every penny's going, right? And then what is your business model? What is your structure? And then the biggest question is, what is your purpose? What
Right.
are you doing this for? And so when you can kind of define those, then you can break them down into chunks,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And then you're just doing the chunks. What can I do today, every day, to do something towards my business growth, right?
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And I love that you're talking about the purpose, because obviously the women that are listening to this, and we might have some men on here too that listen, it really is because we are on a mission to create financial freedom through real estate investing. And it really just does happen one project at a time, one property at a time. And there's so many options in terms of, you know, if you have money but no time, but no time, you can do passive investments. You can be an investor in other deals. And if you have the time and not a lot of money, then you create your own projects.
Mhm.
And that's what's just so wonderful about real estate. You do you find you know, as we've had a lot of issues in terms of construction prices
Mhm.
booming. And I mean, booming, I mean, it's good for the lumber people, I guess, you know, because
Yeah.
they're charging so much more. But how is that affecting the prices in terms of doing rehabs and in terms of building the houses?
Well, it's just like pivoting any other business. So you start to shift where you put your focus on. You know, a one beam might not be, something that takes you down, but you are correct. Materials are, have quadrupled in lumber,
Wow.
and that's an effect when you're doing a ground up, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing a remodel and you're just doing a wall, that we can fluctuate with that. We can so sometimes I may adjust my profit margin in that area because I can on a smaller deal, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing is materials. Getting things, they're backed up. If something's out of China, it's going to be backed up right now, right? Because of all
Right.
the, so it's got a political undertone to it, but it certainly is not without huge efforts from companies pivoting and working around it. So the entire country is kind of shifting and pivoting.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because we've got on one hand houses that are houses that are on the market right now are really expensive to buy. And one of the plays that investors have shifted towards is buying land and doing new builds. And it
Mhm.
still seems to like if you have the resources and and you can do it efficiently, you
Mhm.
actually can probably do better right now buying land and a build. Obviously, it's a more expensive project up front, but
Yeah.
it certainly is. It seems like that seems to be very viable right now.
Definitely, but you really need to have a team. So something that I offer out of my business that a lot of GCs do not is I have, I'm not a design build, I'm not a designer, but I can certainly walk you through and help you make decisions pretty quickly. I'm real efficient with that. But one of
Mhm.
the challenges, like on,
Oh, we froze. I think Terry froze for a moment. Hopefully she'll unfreeze in a minute. She's saying something. What? Okay, we'll give her a second to come back. Hopefully, her internet will resume. So anyway, so we're talking about new construction versus building versus buying a property that's already done. And I was saying that that a lot of people are starting to go with that model, and I think it's very viable. But Terry's saying just be careful with your numbers because there's a lot to it, and you never know how that's going to go. The other thing that we talked about a lot was just how to continually networking and finding those deals. I guess we lost Terry, but we'll hang on. If there's also any questions, I can see them. I can't see who's sending them, but if you pop them into StreamYard, you can ask anything that you want while we're on. And I'm sure Terry will probably attempt to come back on. But in the meantime, the reason why I wanted to have this talk today was also just to show how women in real estate are doing the jobs that used to be just for men. Terry's a general contractor. It's very cool just to know that you can be one of those people. Here she is. She's back.
sorry.
And I just kind of filled in the space for now. And I love that. That happens,
Yeah.
we lose internet and that's all part of it. And I was just saying that you were just saying to balance the numbers carefully and make sure that you're, being cautious about if you're going to do a project like that. The other thing I'd love for you to talk about, especially in Austin and San Antonio, which is where a lot of our people are, but this is something wherever you're investing and you're doing any kinds of construction where there are permits involved. I'd love for you to talk about that process a little because that can be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
It can really slow down a project.
Sure. So this is where the planning, and was what I was saying, is that there's a whole phase before you start construction. There's a
Right.
whole planning phase, and so get your if you're looking to do a build, get your plan in action. That plan looks like I need a checklist of what I need, right? And then I need to tackle that checklist. You can get a checklist from any city permitting building office or online that tells you what you're going to need to submit for permitting. You need a design, you need an architect, you need all these things, soil testing, geoengineers, and then once you have a plan in action, then it in a process, and I think Chloe tapped on this. It's so important to get that part down, and
Mm-hmm.
then you can duplicate it, and it doesn't take as much time. You're just doing soil testing and things like that.
Now, go ahead.
The other thing is there is sometimes I will use a company called Austin Express Permits. They're fabulous. Couple brothers.
There you go. Austin Express Permits,
Yes.
everybody. There you
And
go.
and they will walk you through it, and they will handle all of the submittals and walking through the city and all the corrections and things that will tell you what you need as you go. They
Mhm.
cost, of course,
Of course.
but they have connections with the city like nobody else.
That's great. And then what kind of a fee would you end up paying for that?
It depends on the size of the job.
Okay.
But in general, I think I've paid as low as, $1,000, and as high as 4 or 5 grand.
Okay, so that's definitely for a larger project. Now,
Yeah.
let's talk about what needs to be permitted because this is something that I think comes up in all states, every area. Some states are a lot more nitpicky about it, and it really is it does come down to it's all good unless you get caught kind of thing. And in a city like Austin, where, they're definitely starting to, they know there's a lot of money being exchanged here. So they're in Texas, they want their property taxes and they're looking around and I've seen them. There was a property recently in San Marcos that I was looking at, and it had actually been, they actually had asked the owner to remove the tenants because of a foundation issue. So we can't have, especially in a multi-unit, because they're looking more at those than single family homes. So what needs to be permitted and what doesn't, in your opinion?
Anything that requires a licensed trade needs a permit. Even a hot water heater now needs a permit in Austin.
Okay.
And here's the caveat here is that every little town is a little bit different. And so and there is a level
by county. It goes by county.
County. Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So they go by a federal set of guidelines. And so anything so if like sheetrock, if you're doing over a certain square footage of sheetrock repair or tear down, that can require. I personally, as a GC, there's a lot of things that we've been doing for a long time that I may or may not permit, because and I'll give you an example, and it's hard for me to say this. So if I am changing out a bathtub and or doing a bathroom remodel, if I have to get a structural engineer or a building permit for a bathroom, that can delay your project for 3 months, 6 months sometimes for a little bathroom. The other B, it'll cost your client around $10,000 more on a bathroom remodel. And so sometimes it's a waiver that I have them sign, that if there is an issue with the city that they require, if it's a toilet exchange, if it's a bathtub exchange, we're not moving any plumbing, we're not doing any major overhaul. There's just you can do a trade permit if you want to. It's just know you're going to be up against. So here's what happens in the city of Austin. Let's say I'm doing a full gut remodel. I'm not changing any of the footprint. I'm just putting lipstick on it, but they want to know the lipstick. So specific to changing out a tub, changing out a hot water heater, changing out, maybe I'm taking a wall down and putting a beam. They may want to know that. And when they know that, then they want to come in and check your electric. So if it's old electric and they don't like it, then they're going to ask you to replace the entire electric.
Right. So, I think okay if it's like you own the home, but if it's or you're doing an ADU at your house, but if it's something where you want to flip it, then that could be a real problem, especially if you're borrowing money at 12%.
That's right.
Plus.
So a building permit is different than a trade permit.
Okay.
So a building permit is where you have to have engineers and drawings and all of those. And that's a big deal. That's 3 to 6 months. A trade permit, if I need an electrician to do quite a bit of electric, they need to pull a permit. It takes 24 or 48 hours to get that. It's in and out, and my electrician will take care of that. Your electrician, the licensed trade, has to take care of that.
Exactly. And it costs a few $100. It's not a huge thing. I know in Los Angeles, I used to do that a lot with my tenants because I had some rent control units, which were a nightmare, but they were in very lucrative areas. And so what I would do is we would have a plan called capital improvements. They may start implementing stuff like that in Austin. They may, here we don't have rent control. So it's not as big of an issue, but when you can only raise the rents up to a certain percentage every year, the capital improvement, I could maybe redo the electricity. And then when I did, I could bill that back to the tenants over a period of time with the proper paperwork.
Wow, that's interesting.
There's all kinds of things. Yeah, I mean, I think it's with any city, you really want to get to know the structure of the city and of how they organize. And San Antonio will be different than Austin. Cities like San Marcos or Bastrop will be different than the city of Austin. So you need to really do your homework in terms of what each guideline is. And certainly if you don't, if you do want to take some liberties with certain things that are small, that that it sounds like you have to use your own discretion, and make sure, obviously, if you flip a house and you don't pull any permits and then the work's done incorrectly, they can come back, likely, unless they signed a complete non-recourse kind of thing, where they just said, we're taking it and we know that the house might fall apart, but it's our problem, kind of thing, which is
Yeah.
part of the risk of getting it for a lower price. Stephanie has asked us a question. Hi, Stephanie. Is it easier to just put lipstick, and if you get fined, then you just pay the fine, or trade permits is the way to go? It's a good question.
Lipstick is cosmetic. Anything cosmetic does not need to be permitted. Anything, and it's going to be over if an electric permit or a plumbing permit or an HVAC permit. Those are your three main trades that are licensed, required to be licensed in the state of Texas. You do
Right.
not have to have a license as a GC or a remodeler, or
You
even
don't have to have a license as a GC? Really?
This
Wow.
is why you need to vet.
Ah, wow. But you're licensed.
I don't have to be licensed.
But you are, or you're not?
No, there is no licensing here.
Oh,
You
interesting.
register with the cities as a builder, and you have to have your insurance and all of that. I have a big bad insurance plan for sure.
Interesting. Look at that. So a lot more people could come into that space too, if they're interested in that. Pretty
Cosmetic.
cool opportunity.
Yeah, cosmetic, you don't need permits. Windows, you need permits. Even if you're doing the entire siding, you're going to need permits.
Yeah. I mean, I would say also, Stephanie, to answer that question. So Terri said also, of course, lipstick is like you're painting the house and you're making it look good. That's just lipstick on the pig. But the other things are not lipstick on a pig. But I think that, if it's minor, like you're changing out a toilet or something that is minor, then, I think definitely don't do the trade permit. Personally, there are certain codes that also I actually think are good that came into be. Some of them are, if a house is built before 1920, sometimes they're exempt just because they're so old. But you really want to make sure that that you're being by the code, to a certain degree. Like, I don't mess with electrical. If somebody tells me the electric shot, I will probably permit it and get it all done, just because I just think it's important. Now, granted, when you're buying flips, a lot of times none of that stuff's permitted, so you just kind of hope that they did it right, which might be a good reason why you want to buy a house that needs to be rehabbed, so that you can put the you can put the electrical in, you can do all the stuff. If you're going to keep the house, it may not be as important, but when you go to sell it, if you're selling it on the MLS, there's much more regulations. So yeah, do you want to add something to that?
Yeah, and I want to add that so my guys have been with me for a long time. They can do can lights, run some electric, add outlets, change them out, all of that. I do not cut corners. I will not cut corners on my remodels, and so they can do it, and they do it right. And I also have licensed trades, whether we permit or not, come do major electrical, major plumbing. We can change out a toilet all day long. Moving plumbing in the concrete, I'm going to pull in a plumber.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. 100%. And, yeah, because if something does go wrong and you've got a tenant in there, and, the electrical goes, or there's a fire, I mean, that could be a bigger problem than you want to deal with,
You always want that to be on the licensed trade. If you have a licensed trade in there, then that is, that saves you as an investor who's a flipper,
say that way. Oh, if you have a licensed trader, yeah, sure. I mean, and there's we could do a whole other thing about real estate professional and how we log everything. And there's a lot of details. Okay, so we're going to ask, Stephanie is loving our live. Thank you, Stephanie. And we're going to answer your questions, and then we're probably going to wrap it up, because we try to keep these to 30 minutes weekly, so that, we can all get back to our day, but we have some inspiration and some new knowledge and value. Okay, so Stephanie says, how do you register as a builder with Austin?
You don't have to register as a builder with Austin. You do in Round Rock, you do in Kyle and Buda. And all you do is go to the city
and fill out a form, or right now it's probably all online. You fill out a form and you pay a fee, and then you're a builder for life. And then all your trades that are connected to that remodel will register with connected to that address. So they
Right.
have to also register with the city with their license on file.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
And then Stephanie also asked, only a plumber and electrician need permits. I'll let you answer that. I think we answered it, but we'll clarify because it is confusing.
So, no, that I know that
a lot of things.
A plumber, electrician, and HVAC. Those
Yeah, but
are
also any kind of concrete, like if you're doing not a
foundation.
concrete slab, but if you're banging out walls and changing things, technically you should have a permit.
Right. So that would require a structural engineer letter. So you'd have a structural engineer that could come out, inspect it, do a letter, and that's what the city wants to see. They don't want to be held responsible when you're permitting. The city doesn't. So they make you get a structural engineer letter and inspection from it.
Right, which is expensive, but at least you know that you're building sound. So pretty much whenever you tear out a wall, you're saying they want a letter from a structural engineer.
If you need to do if it is a structural wall that you're tearing out and you're putting a beam, yeah. If you're
but not everybody does it. I mean, you know, I've torn out walls where I haven't done that, but it's a good idea. I mean, you know, you just need to use your discretion. And thank you, Steph. And Stephanie's our big fan of the day. She said, "Oh my God, this is gold info." So with that, I'm going to say that if you love Ren, and we have lives once a week. I host them with different members of the group or different experts. And we're going to actually be having a live panel of lenders that are going to be coming. I'm actually going to be talking about private money lending, which is something I do. We're going to have a commercial lender, a conventional lender, and also a hard money lender. And it's going to be February 17th. We're working, it's from 6 to 8 at In Cahoots. We're finalizing details right now. So please look up the forms that'll be coming in the Eventbrite link. And we look forward to seeing you all then.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Terri, for your time. Thanks for being here. And have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for having me. It's great.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe below, and you can find out more at wealthwarriorwoman.com.